Welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I am Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I'm Riley Silverman, writer, performer, and Star Wars author.
Yes, welcome back, Riley.
Thank you.
We are continuing this Rey Kylo business in minute 78 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. 78 starts with Kylo saying, "You can't go back to her now." And it ends with Beaumont Kin looking alarmed. Been a little bit since we've seen Beaumont Kin. It's been a Star Wars minute since we've seen that guy.
I forgot he's in this movie.
Yeah.
Why can't Rey go back?
I think Kylo is wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But because he says you can't go back, just like I can't go back. He's thinking like, oh, Rey has already kind of crossed this threshold. She's reached out with her anger, and now she's kind of broken a seal, and now she won't kind of be able to go back and train with Leia, because like Leia would just be like, no, you're a little too Sithy now. We're not going to do this.
Yeah. I also think there's an element of Rey doesn't realize that both Luke and Leia know that she's Palpatine's granddaughter, and I think because she has just learned it about herself, and I think that she thinks, oh, I can't go back to Leia now because. So I think he's playing on her own insecurity of like, oh, I learned this thing about you, about your past, and now that you know this, you can never go back to her because she won't trust you.
Right.
And that's why it's a big deal later when Luke is like, yeah, she always knew, but she didn't hold it against you.
So,
like this, you can't go back because now that everybody knows you're the Emperor's daughter, you can't go back to Darth Vader's daughter and talk to her. She won't let you back. She won't trust you.
Yeah. But that is how Kylo operates. Like, Kylo seems to think that he's destined to follow this dark side path because of who Darth Vader was. So,
right.
I felt like he was just kind of lumping her in with him. I killed my dad. You might be worried that you might be a bad guy.
Yeah. You thought you killed my dad's dog there for a minute?
So Luke knew she was a Luke and Leia both knew she was a Palpatine?
He says it to her on the beach when his Force Ghost says it to her.
I forgot about that part. Yeah. I don't that seems very weird. That's another reason this retcon is, A, making her a Palpatine, and B, knowing that everyone else knew she was a Palpatine. Like, I never got the impression Rey was like that. He was like, I guess he does talk about how he's worried she's going to turn evil and everything. That she's she's so powerful and all that stuff. But it just seems like he wouldn't have let her go with that. Especially Luke, of all people, who knows what it's like to be lied to by your Jedi Master and everything. It's right. It's either sad irony or it's bad characterization.
I lean more towards sad irony. I think it's that he was afraid to train her. He's trying not to train her. Remember, at the end of his training, at the end of it, he goes, "My training to complete is that this needs to stop. It needs to end, and that's why we're doing this." Like that's and then she runs. She, not unlike Luke in Empire, she takes off to go do what she wants to do, and then he never sees her alive again until this movie. So I do think it's like it is 100% a retcon, but I don't think it's a retcon that is as... I am an apologist for this movie. I'm an apologist for Rey Palpatine. It resonates a lot with me personally, and so I'm on board with it. I'm not denying... I will never deny this movie probably needed another year of development to get ready. I think they shouldn't have rushed it out the way they did. So I am aware of its many, many, many flaws. It's, unfortunately, according to the internet, the only Star Wars film to ever have flaws in it. But I also think that... I read that. For me, the issues are never really what's happening. It's just that it wasn't cooked all the way. And the Rey Palpatine thing works for me a lot. And I'm a very lone voice in that particular choir, but I very much... it's for very personal reasons. It means a lot to me, so I don't mind it, and I don't think the ways that they explain it are completely far fetched. Like I do think there's that element of, okay, look at it this way. it's a sad irony, and that's how I choose to follow it personally.
And I'm sure as time goes on and they develop more ancillary material, it'll add more complexity to the situation, just like Clone Wars and all that stuff kind of fills it out a bit more. So hopefully, but
I'm telling you,
I have been told Shadows of the Sith does that a lot for this movie. I've been told that it really, that in general, it's a good book to compare to the sequel movies. I'm hoping the Rey sequel pads out a little bit more too, so we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they address that, or if it's like, if this will be like the prequels where they're like, we're not going to address anything that happened in episode 9 because it's too hot button of a thing. So then eventually they'll start easing their way back into it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, aren't you a Palpatine? She's like, what's that? What?
I said Skywalker. That's my dead name. Call me Skywalker.
No, Rey Skywalker. Yeah.
Yeah. What this movie really needs more than anything else is a good meme culture. I feel like the meme culture is what brought everyone to start loving the prequel movies, and I think that these movies need that as well. The movies need a good, solid prequel, but I don't think it works on the same level. But yeah,
I mean, it's got somehow Palpatine returned meme.
It has one meme,
and there's Claude reacting.
That's true.
Which is another good one, but
and that
we'll
Rey at the end is the one I've seen the most.
Yes, the Rey,
where she
who
has various last names.
Mm-hmm. Give me your purse. Hey, speaking of speaking of Rey, I know that. Getting back to this for a second, I do like the Kylo. Like we said, Kylo's getting deep. He was talking about like, hey, you can't go back to her now. Just like I can't go back, and like we're one and the same. He's like doing this whole thing, and he's like trying to like getting kind of deep about their relationship, and Rey's just like, give it to me, like gimme, and he's all like, don't you think it's funny that like we're so different but we're so the same? And she's like, give me that thing.
Is this the minute where he crushes it?
Yeah, like all the best MacGuffin is it gets destroyed, and all of a sudden the whole thing that we were just kind of hot on the trail of that made all the difference, that we had to go find this thing, all the nonsense doesn't matter, which is great. That's the way. Like I love it because it's a good it's like the true nature of a MacGuffin. It's like it's not really it's what they're after, but it's not really what the plot doesn't really hinge on that. So
it's the quest that changes you, not the object.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they start their laser duel.
Yeah, and I am such a nerd for Rey, and I just love Rey seething. I just love Rey on the edge of just like like the thing you're just saying about give it to me. Like I like that Rey is completely unhinged in this moment. I remember someone saying like their biggest problem with Rey is she never gets angry. I'm like, what are you talking about? Rey loses her mind in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who else likes Rey losing her mind and getting angry? It's Kylo Ren. He is all about this, and in fact, that's so much like I started to talk about it a little bit yesterday, where he's not wearing the mask because he's trying to play on their connection, and he's also just not fighting back at all. It takes him a really long time for him to ignite his lightsaber. Rey is out there swinging, and he's just ducking and dodging and doing all this, and he goes for as long as possible without igniting his lightsaber. And in the the novelization in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker Expanded Edition by Ray Carson, she goes into his head a little bit, and it says not that they do that too, but that's a whole different thing. That's later in the duel. They get into each other's minds, but the author goes into the Kylo's kind of psychology there, and that it's like he knows that if he's just dodging everything she's throwing out there, like he's not fighting back, and that's angering her more. He wants to fight her. She wants to fight him right now. She's getting this is what she wants. She wants to be able to and like strike out at him, and he's not letting her make contact and not fighting back, not pulling out the lightsaber and making it an official duel. He's getting her that much more angry, and that's kind of in his hopes driving her more towards the dark side.
Yeah, it's almost a weird reflection on the Luke and Vader fight at the end of Jedi, where Luke is choosing not to fight, and that's like him walking the path of peace and trying to like reconcile, and then until he gets angry and starts striking out or whatever. This is her she's losing it because she's afraid she's losing her connection to the light and becoming dark, and that's what's making her angry. And then he is like, I think he's really struggling at this moment with who he is, and so he's able to like focus in on this, like, oh, I can do this one thing that will make her angrier and angry her, so that I can prove that she's just like me, so that I can prove that I'm not broken as well. Like, it's this whole thing happening. It's just, I love this scene so much. This is one of my favorite lightsaber battles in the movies. I'm such a nerd for this scene.
It's good stuff. Yeah, we and it evolves and keeps going.
Yeah.
I love that he doesn't use the sword at first, and he's just kind of dodging. And I know they try to give, especially in the modern era, they try to give each lightsaber wielder kind of their own personal style of lightsaber. You know, Ahsoka does the weird thing where she holds them the other direction.
Yeah,
and,
underhanded.
Rey's got her staff, and Kylo Ren has this kind of like flip thing that he does where he like twirls in the air, and it's so it's so funny looking and distinctive to his, do you think he learned that from Palpatine? Because Palpatine did the whole spinning in the air thing in Revenge of the Sith.
Yoda.
That's a good trick.
If he did it in Revenge of the Sith, do we think that he learned it from Anakin? So he was closer and closer to Anakin. Would you think they were talking about Sith stuff? They were doing training, and Anakin was like, hey, you know what's a good trick? Spinning. And she was like, man, spinning, that could be a good trick. Huh? Yeah. And then figured it out in that, and then he was just like, hey, you know what I learned from Darth Vader? You know, your grandfather.
He wouldn't say he learned it from Darth Vader. He would say, this is a trick I taught Vader.
Yeah, there you go, right.
How do I learn that spinning trick? Not from a Jedi. Right. Yeah. And another thing that Kylo does a lot of in his, which, the whole aspect of his having a lightsaber that's like a broadsword, is he does a lot of like brute force, like lashing out, spoiled child kind of swings. And I feel like Rey has taken on a lot of those in this particular scene. Like, I feel like there's a lot of Rey lashing out the way like you could imagine Rey slashing up a control panel, like the scene in the previous movie where Kylo's doing that.
Do they
totally?
Have we ever seen a laser whip?
Again, in the High Republic, yes. Also the Dathomir Night Witches have laser whips, and then there's a Jedi who's really awesome. She's actually going to be in the Acolyte series, Vernestra Woe. I never pronounced her name. Her last name is like RWOH. But Vernestra has her lightsaber. She like woke up middle of the night with the Force vision to how to modify her lightsaber, and she did it. And so she has like a setting on it. She can flip it, and it turns into a Force whip, and then or into a light whip, and then it can go back to being a lightsaber when she wants it to.
That's handy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it get longer when it's a whip?
Yeah, it like snaps and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, now we know that you can make a lightsaber longer if you need to. There's a knob.
That's right, because who did we see that in Rebels?
Yeah, like in like the first couple of episodes of Rebels.
Okay, yeah.
When Ezra is first training to use the lightsaber, he's like, here, use this knob, make it shorter.
Oh, look at Pete quoting Rebels. Look
right?
at that.
Yeah. See? Who knew?
Is that when he has the saber he builds that has the little stun gun on it
Don't
too?
Tell us.
Oh, no, I spoiled it. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Sorry. I thought that was
it's
like
all right. It's not a big deal.
I ruined all of Rebels for you by describing a first season lightsaber.
I like the edit they do here, this cut where you see, I forget who it is. Is it maybe it's Kylo Ren? Oh, no, they jump down the hole. That's what they do.
They both jump down the hole.
They both jump down that little water slide hole, and then it cuts to the headphones falling in the Rebel headquarters. It's a nice little bit of editing.
Yeah, it's a good little juxtaposition there. And I do like that kind of jumping in the hole too, that he kind of like backs up and then just kind of jumps almost without looking, and he's like looking at her and jumps off. It's like almost like, he's got the confidence as if like this is his, like the pool in his backyard or something. He just knows exactly. It's just like, oh, boom, and then Rey immediately, without even thinking, jumps after him, which is funny. It would be funny if it was just like, like an 8-foot hole or something like that, and like you like jump down, then like land, and then Rey lands right on top of him. Like, oh no, stop! All right, no, the short hole,
twist her ankle.
Yeah, it leads to the trash compactor. So what if Join me in a thought
what
experiment. What if
All right.
Rey said to Kylo Ren, you know what? You're right. I want to join the dark side. What happens?
I think she joins the dark side.
No, but does he take her to Palpatine? Does he say, okay, good?
No, he doesn't. No way.
You think he would then renege on his...
No, it's Snoke all over again. Kylo doesn't want to be anyone's thrall. He wants to be the supreme leader of the galaxy. So, I think he trains her as an apprentice, and they try to go kill Palpatine together or something along those lines.
Like later, they let Palpatine take over the first because like we've got like T-minus like 6 hours or something like that on the Sith fleet.
Yeah. I think they go. Yeah, sorry. I think they do go to Exegol to fight Palpatine, but they don't do it in like I'm taking her to him to present her to him like Palpatine wants him to do. I think they go to try to kill him. Yeah,
I do like the idea. They let all the Sith forces like leave first, and then once it's empty, and it's just like, it's just like the puppet Sheev and like like one or two Sith loyalists there, and then he shows up. He's like, hey, so. Find the girl. No, kill the girl. I don't know. I got the girl. And we're here to talk. Listen, about that girl.
I do wonder if Kylo lets them go ahead and blow up. Because like, he's not... If he stays Kylo and she becomes his dark side apprentice, I feel like he's not too, plussed about letting the Sith Eternal fleet blow up all of the universe. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the other... Like, what would it take for him? Because that was, last time in Snoke's room, in Snoke's boudoir, they had it. She was like, all right, stop. She wasn't saying stop this and I'll go with you. She was like, all right, stop the attack,
stop the execution.
Wait a minute, stop the execution. And he's like, no, we need to be take over and all that stuff. Like she doesn't. Like if he had just been like, oh, okay, I'll stop that attack and then we'll rule it together, and she might have been like, all right, well, I'll help you, like that. Like there might have been more common ground there. But if he or she was like, all right, hey, if I go with you, you're right. If I go with you, we'll rule together. Can we stop this fleet that's going to destroy everything and kill everybody, and then we'll go take over everything? Like could she have been more of like a presence from the inside, like pushing him towards the light a little bit, like as a. She might have done more good in the long term. There's a higher chance for her to do good joining up with him and pushing him towards the light as it goes. If he agreed to stop the execution.
I think that Star Wars morality doesn't allow for that. I think that in this universe with the Force and everything, I think that her intentions might have been to change him and make him a force for good, but I think it would have been more that she would have just been slowly corrupted by him. Not unlike Anakin slowly being corrupted by Palpatine and things like that.
Similarly, what if Kylo Ren said, you know what? You're right. I don't like Palpatine. I've seen the error of my ways. I'm now good. What happens?
I am now good.
Although if we kill one more person and then starting after that, then it starts then.
I don't think that's like, I get that it's a thought experiment, it's hypothetical, but I think that he's so broken that there's no way he could do that. Like, I think it takes him being pushed to the edge to finally be able to do that. Like, it takes like this human moment of weakness for his mom to like connect with him again through the Force to break him from his broke. I don't think there's a universe where Kylo is Kyle. Yeah. There's not a universe where Kylo is like, you know what? I've been going about this all wrong. You're right. I'm so sorry. You know what? We shouldn't burn the past. We shouldn't let it die. We should let it become healing and become. Yeah,
maybe
I think
we can let a little bit of the past slip. Right?
That's a treat.
We can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's so broken he's in so much pain in Last Jedi that I don't think there's a universe where he can be talked out of his pain at this point.
But he couldn't even fake it. He couldn't even fake, oh yeah, I'm good now, and then let's go back to the Rebel base and say hi to everyone, and then he gets there and he kills everybody.
I don't think he can. I think he's so keyed up from having just slaughtered Snoke and all these people, and he's at the point because he keeps thinking he's won Rey over to his point of view, and I think in his mind he's like, no, I've done it. I'm the leader. I'm the one. Let's just burn it all down. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, moving on to Beaumont Kin and
Beaumont
Adventures
Kin.
back on, what's the name of that planet? Alden.
I hear it every time I go on Rise of Resistance
Agent
because
Kloss. Agent Kloss.
Agent Kloss.
Beaumont Kin warrants a 2-page spread in the visual dictionary. The guy barely has 4 lines in the whole film.
He suffered. He's prominent in the novelization also at times, and I think it's all because it's the same thing as Rose. He and Rose, not the same thing as Rose, but he and Rose, and to a certain extent, Kiddo Kokonix, also they all suffer from. We had more to do when Carrie Fisher was alive, and they were much more involved. That's just you leave that up as your screen from now on, Alex.
Yeah.
Just you'll be Beaumont Kin. We'll clutch cargo your mouth in there. Yeah, I mean they even have like there's a couple of different scenes that made it into the novelization. So I think they're kind of remnants, vestigial kind of parts of what could have been. They're parts where Leia's sitting there kind of like, talking to the people in the base, and they're excited when they keep finding, seeing that the Millennium Falcon is transmitting and getting updates from there, and they're all like, hey, but we have more to do, and Rose like has figured out how to activate these other 2 ships and all this other stuff, and so the Beaumont Kin is part of that. He worked with Rose on a lot of stuff, and so when they both got axed, it was just kind of like, I mean, when Carrie Fisher was unavailable for filming, they both kind of suffered from that. Their storylines were deemed
that's interesting to me because I guess my impression of the timeline was that Carrie passed away before the project was switched over from Trevorrow back to JJ. I thought that Carrie had passed away like right after they had, because she hadn't she passed away like the year before Last Jedi came out? Like she died.
No, it was the year after, right before Rogue One came. Right after Rogue One came out.
So because I know that So I think that at that point it was still Duel of the Fates was kind of being developed, and then they switched over to this story. So yeah, I don't know if that's interesting to me of like how much. I feel like these 3 characters, like I think you could have taken him out and just given what you have him doing between Rose and Connix, and that would have been a little bit like more economy of character screen time. But
totally,
yeah. It definitely smacks of JJ saying, "Hey, come on, all right, I'll give you a little part in the movie."
Yeah. And I'll push
literally
these people aside that have been in the franchise for the last several movies. But
it's another part of it that I forgot where I read that he was like. He had basically started the movie and was just like, oh, right. Did I ask you if you want to be in a Star Wars? Do you want to come in? And like, so that he's not more involved in some parts because he would like physically just wasn't like attached to the movie yet, more or less. You know what I mean? They were like, they had already started filming some stuff. And like, well, I guess I can't put you in those scenes. So I'll have you be like a technician. Here, hang out with Rose. She's also got nothing to do.
Yeah. And now you're giving her less to do. Good job.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I read through the extensive amount of notes here about Beaumont Kin. Surprisingly little that was of any interest. The best part was, it says, Beaumont Kin, though he came to the Resistance without combat experience, his passion for informal university grav ball games kept him active.
Hmm.
And I don't know why that cracks me up. Like, they're like, do you have any fighting experience? He's like, I played foosball in the quad.
Right, yeah. All right, so
it sounds like it's
Lieutenant.
his dating profile. Like, I keep
yeah.
active with informal university grav ball and long walks on the.
It made me wonder what other Star Wars characters. Anakin, we know, was a race car driver, but what other Star Wars characters were jocks?
Race car drivers are a really interesting way to describe being a slave pod racer, but sure.
It doesn't. I think it's the kind of thing where it's not. I think that's more of a niche sport. It's probably a nerdy sport. Whatever, university grav ball.
Is it like hacky sack?
Yeah, probably, or like ultimate frisbee or something like that, where it's just like, it's a sport, but come on, like.
Well,
I mean, I think Luke to some degree. I don't think he was a jock per se, but like, you know, he used to like going and shooting up womp rats and flying his ship through like Beggar's Canyon and stuff like that. So I think hot rodding is like the closest equivalent to what Luke was doing with like his glider and stuff like that. So I think a lot of the characters we meet. What's that?
Go ahead. Finish what you were going to say.
I was going to say I think a lot of the characters we're meeting during saga movies aren't living in a time period where like they're able to necessarily like dive into hobbies as much. Like Han grows up like in Solo. Han's growing up like in the slums on this. He's basically like goes from being the Artful Dodger to being Han Solo. So then you know you've got that, and you've got Anakin growing up in slave hovels. So his one entertainment is also part of his duties as a slave. And the only characters we really meet who have recreational time are Luke as a farm boy who's bored out of his mind, or now Beaumont Kin, who apparently went to Yale. So
I'm sure Leia had a well-rounded physical education growing up as a highfalutin princess on Alderaan. She probably had to do, you know, fancier lessons and
cross country. Maybe I'm trying to pick like lacrosse, softball, cross country. What's Leia's deal? Swim team.
We see we're doing a lot of hide and seek during Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other characters. I'm sure that who probably had hobbies was the rebel pilot Hobby.
I think that's like naming a tall guy like Pee-wee or whatever.
Hobbies had no hobbies. He was just the most boring guy. Yeah. Like, hey, Hobby.
Hobby's like a dozer from Fraggle Rock. He just drives around doing work all day, and that's his joy. I bet you Holdo was into a lot of extracurricular. She probably was a theater kid.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
she does have a flair for the dramatic.
Mock UN or something like that. Or,
I bet the Tico sisters were probably into some stuff when they were younger. Yeah. Before the
could be.
First Order rose up.
I think Paige more so. Rose is more bookish. I think Paige has probably played some lacrosse or field hockey or something.
I bet Rose is a LARPer.
And I think I bet Wedge played like rugby or something. You know what I mean? Wedge is He comes from. He plays a rich. He's like
a highlight or squash guy.
Yeah, squash. Oh, squash. Yeah, Wedge played squash.
That's kind of what I'm imagining Beaumont's thing to be. This like informal university grav ball feels like squash. Like it feels like being on the crew team. Like it definitely feels like a rich kid sport.
But like informal makes me think that it's more like it's
shirts versus skins kind of.
Oh, I was thinking I was thinking as like intramural versus being like professional. Like it's like being an top seeded amateur golfer instead of being a pro golfer or something.
Well, you'll all be happy to know that in the Rebels novel Servants of the Empire: Edge of the Galaxy, we see a character we don't see it, it's a novel. We hear a character playing it, and Pete, you'll be delighted to know that it is Ezra's friend from the Imperial Academy. Remember the kid who he was friends with? That guy. Yeah. So the sport is described as being like American football with a bit of netball and a touch of hockey.
Okay.
And while sometimes the game has been described that you wear hover boots, the author of Servants of the Empire: Edge of the Galaxy did not want to include the hover boots because he thought it was a little too space, you just have to throw in space things because it's a space sport.
You're already calling something grav ball. I think that bridge is crossed.
Yeah.
I don't know what they mean by netball.
Netball's a British sport that's like, it's kind of like basketball, but I don't think you run around. Like I think you stay in spots and like throw balls and
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like learn something new every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of the rules of it, but I know about it from reading books that in the UK and talking to British people.
Ted Lasso. That's about.
I think it was like originally like more of a girls' sport, and then it kind of like became more intramural, like co-ed. But I might be wrong about that. But I think a lot of girls' schools have netball teams. Stuff like that.
It does sound like something that if you're like, well, we want the women to play basketball, but running around is too. They'll hurt their uteruses. So why don't they just stand still and shoot the ball so that way they can just
Let's see. Sport played on a rectangular court, 2 teams, 7 players. Yeah, the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia image is of the women's teams from Malawi and playing Fiji. So
yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's like basketball, but there's no backboard, essentially. It's most popularly played in Commonwealth nations. So, all right. A common misunderstanding of netball's origins has resulted in the mistaken belief that netball was created to prevent women from playing basketball. See, Alex?
There you go.
However, the development traces back to American sports teacher Clara Gregory Bayer's misinterpretation of the basketball rulebook in 1895. So it's a mistake.
That's very funny, actually.
Like the page that had dribbling and passing was like
and
stuck
backboard.
in the memo in the mimeograph machine.
Right. Yeah, when Rachel tries to make a trifle. That was pretty much a lot. We got more stuff that kind of goes into tomorrow here, because the battle continues and it really starts to pick up. We got the end of the Beaumont Kin scene, and we've got the exciting beginnings of they take it outside like a good fight.
Yeah.
Riley, I'm assuming that you can come back tomorrow to talk
100%.
more about that.
Yeah.
All right. And Alex, I'm gonna send you a netball invitation. We'll reconvene. We'll play some squash, then we'll come back.
All right.
Some British listener was yelling at me for saying wrong things about netball, and I apologize to them.
They always yell. We always get things wrong, and we're sorry, but we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
We're doing it the best we can. Hopefully we don't get demonetized on that episode for singing my rendition of the Just the 10 of Us theme. Hey, if you...
I believe that's public domain at this point.
I think so.
Also, I don't think it sounded remotely enough like it that it's going to be a problem.
It's okay, yeah. I mean, you haven't heard the post-production work that I do. But, we're going to go do all that stuff. Hey, if you want to yell at us about netball or squash, if you were a squash player and you're offended by our characterizations, find us on social media. We're on Twitter sometimes at Star Wars Minute, Instagram at the Star Wars Minute. If you go to Facebook, you get the Star Wars Minute Listener Society at starwarsminute.com/Facebook. Or, hey, if you are, I mentioned our Patreon before. If you sign up for the Patreon, you get access to the Discord server where we hang out, and Alex and I actually talk to a lot of our friends and listeners there. It's good stuff. So any of those places we're available for yelling. Sometimes we'll respond, sometimes we won't. And
that's our pledge.
Here, I guarantee that we'll respond with another episode tomorrow of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.